Speaking from his bunker in Beirut, Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah last night presented an alternative view of retaliatory rocket strikes directed at Israel. The delusional remarks came as the U.S. continued efforts to prevent the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah from spiraling into an all-out war. More from ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
Without providing any proof, Nasrallah claimed overwhelming success in yesterday's attack in retaliation for Israel's assassination of Hezbollah Chief of Staff Fuad Shukr at the end of last month in Beirut. Nasrallah claims the strikes went as planned and that Israeli military sites outside of Tel Aviv were struck and that the retaliation for Shukr's death has now been complete. There were no Hezbollah strikes in central Israel at all.
وتحقق الهدف المقصود فنحن بنعتبر أنه عملية تود على اغتيال الشهيد القائد الحاج محسن السيد محسن واستهداف الضاحية قد تمت. وإذا لم تكن النتيجة في نظرنا كافية فسنحتفظ حاليا لأنفسنا بحق رد حتى وقت آخر.
Earlier, the IDF announced that the army carried out preemptive strikes on Hezbollah launchers that largely prevented a larger attack by the group. IDF spokesman Daniel Hagari said that at least 6 Hezbollah fighters were killed in the Israeli preemptive strikes. There were damages but no injuries caused by some 300 Hezbollah rockets that entered Israeli airspace in the north. The U.S. is attempting to end the escalation. U.S. Chief of Staff General Brown is holding talks with IDF Chief Halevi, with discussions focused on countering the threats from Iran and Hezbollah.
We have been concerned about the conflict escalating into an all-out regional war since October 7th, and we have worked round the clock with partners and allies, moving military assets, engaging in intensive diplomacy, both publicly and privately behind the scenes, to avert that outcome. We continue to work to avert that outcome. And our hope is that the events of last night do not spill out into an escalation that leads to regional war.
Tensions and cross-border attacks are continuing on the northern frontier. The army shot down a drone in the Golan Heights near the Sea of Galilee that had been launched from Syria in what was described as a rare occurrence.
Israel is, of course, still on high alert following the escalation by Hezbollah on that northern border. But here with us to discuss Israel's remarkable success in preemptively thwarting a much bigger attack is the former head of the Israeli Air Force Defense Division, Brigadier General Elon Biton. Elon, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast today. I wanted to start by asking you, the Air Force looks like they had another, quite frankly, historic success.
Right.
What did this attack involve?
Okay. Let's take a wide view around this event. The main purpose of air defense is to contain and to destroy the main dangerous salvos, but not for good, because we would like to defend Israel for a period of time till other means like maneuver forces can reach and eliminate totally the launching. Now, and this capability also give our leaders the flexibility to take rational decisions. It's very important. Now, once we understand that something is going to happen by intelligence and other science, it's better to take a preemptive strike to eliminate some of those capabilities. They tend to launch around 600 to 900 rockets in a very short time to a very narrow area just north of Israel. And with that, with UAVs, try to attack some infrastructure, main one near Tel Aviv. So the total launch was around 220 rockets. It means that 2/3 of the previous capability
wiped out.
Yeah, by the strike.
Yeah.
Now, Israel, the Air Force, is ready not just for this event, but also for others. if Israel will take a decision, the Air Force can act in a very short time with huge attack.
We'll close with this. You know, Israel has faced a lot of criticism and a lot of questions about the high number of civilian casualties in Gaza in particular. Now, we know that Hamas and other terror groups use human shields. They're using the civilian population in order to protect themselves because they know that Israel wants to avoid those civilian casualties. We haven't yet seen very many civilian casualties in Lebanon. I'm wondering if you can speak about how the Air Force operates when they deal with these human shields, when they see civilians. What kind of procedures are in place to protect civilians?
Okay, first of all, they try to alert these civilians that if they stay in the same place, they can be dangerous. Sometimes you can't say nothing because if you like to eliminate some high-level person. So we use a very precise intelligence, but also try to understand the capabilities by using this bomb or another bomb. And the Israeli Air Force, the pilot, he is the last one that can take a decision. And even everyone will, if his orders to attack something, and everyone said, green light, you can continue, if the pilot will understand that something can happen to uninvolved persons, it will stop.
All right, well, we are out of time, but I want to thank you, of course, for your insight after this momentous day in Lebanon. Hopefully, we won't have too many more of those, but thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Last night, our editor-in-chief, Mayan Hoffman, traveled to the north following Israel's preemptive strike against Lebanon and Hezbollah's smaller retaliatory attack. She went to capture the sights, sounds, and reactions of the people. Mayan is now joining us in the studio today to speak about her experience. Mayan, I wanted to ask you, what is the atmosphere like right now up north?
It was honestly eerily quiet throughout all the streets. I drove up there, it was towards nighttime, and nobody was out. I went into the community of Katsrin, the community that last week on Wednesday was targeted, if you remember, by dozens and dozens of rockets, many fires, direct hits. And normally when you go into the center of town in Katsrin, it's packed, full of people, pizza shops, restaurants. Nobody almost was there.
Is there any particular story that captures the attitude and the approach of the people who are in the north right now?
Well, I think what's amazing is remember that more than 60,000 Northerners are displaced. They are not living in their homes. But those that are have a fascinating story in that they are extremely resilient, Zionistic, patriotic people who believe that they need to make sure that they hold down the fort for the northern part of Israel. So I met with the mayor of Katsrin, and he said to me, Hezbollah can give as many threats as they want, and they can try, but we will fight harder. They can bomb us with rockets, but we will stay in our homes and we will build infrastructure around us to keep us safe so that we will always be able to maintain this border of the state of Israel. And I found it amazing after 11 months of war to hear that passion and that Zionism still now.
I know that there are still some residents who are even talking about returning despite the risks. So certainly that spirit is there. Was there any final sentiment or message that you gathered from speaking to the communities there?
Yeah, well, I think there were two messages that really drove home. One was to the governments of Israel, where nobody knocked the government, nobody put them down, but they said, listen, officials, we need you to fight harder for us. Get us back the security. Let our people come home. Take down Hezbollah and do what's needed. And then there was a message to the international community, which was, we don't really care what you think, which I found amazing. They said, you know, we know all the rhetoric out there, but in the end, this is the state of Israel. This is our land, and we are going to have to do what we need to do to keep Jews safe.
Absolutely. Well, I hope that the government and the international community hears their message. Thank you for bringing that story to us today, Mayan Hoffman. The Hezbollah attack on Israel was not nearly as successful as Hezbollah had hoped, with some of their only hits being empty buildings and actually a chicken coop. But residents of the north are still feeling unprotected. Now let's take a closer look at what's going on the northern front. Hezbollah intended to launch a major attack with hundreds of missiles striking Tel Aviv. Instead, a chicken coop in northern Israel was terrorized. The strike left dozens of chickens dead and caused significant damage to the local poultry farm. While the Israeli Air Force's preemptive strike saved much of central Israel from what was expected to be a massive barrage of rockets, not everyone is pleased. For residents of the north, the Hezbollah attack was terrifying, and many residents are frustrated with the Israeli government's failure to stop Hezbollah. For over 10 months, as Hezbollah has fired over 8,000 projectiles, tens of thousands of Israelis in towns on the border have been displaced. Others who remain also expressed frustration.
אני מצפה שישראל לא תחכה לתגובה, ומה שצריך להיות, שפשוט תעשה את זה, ותעשה את זה עד הסוף. אנחנו ערוכים, אנחנו מוכנים, אנחנו חסינים, אנחנו דרוכים. כמה זמן שזה ייקח, אבל פשוט שישראל פשוט תרים את הכפפה ותעשה את מה שצריך לעשות. אנחנו סומכים על ישראל, סומכים על הצבא שלנו, והכי חשוב, סומכים על הקדוש ברוך הוא.
While residents of the north continue to face threats from Hezbollah, the internet has responded to the strikes by Hezbollah with sheer mockery, with memes and jokes trending across social media, criticizing the failure of Nasrallah to make meaningful impact with the strike, other than hitting chickens. Despite the humiliation, Hezbollah's Nasrallah has claimed the attack went as intended. There are mixed signals coming from hostage for ceasefire talks underway in Cairo. Hamas says it rejects Israeli changes to earlier versions of the proposal, while U.S. officials are calling the talks constructive. More from ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
Senior Israeli negotiators are in Cairo continuing talks aimed at wrapping up a hostage release and truce deal in Gaza, despite the large-scale attack by Hezbollah terror group that bolstered concerns about all-out war in the region. The delegation is led by Mossad chief David Barnea and Shin Bet director Ronen Bar. Talks have largely centered on Israeli demands regarding a military presence along Gaza's border with Egypt, known as the Philadelphia Corridor, to prevent smuggling. According to an Israeli official, the U.S. is applying significant pressure to wrap up a deal in order to prevent a larger war from breaking out across the region. A U.S. official described the talks as constructive and conducted in the spirit of reaching a final and implementable agreement, with all sides sharing the sentiment. The process, they said, will continue over the coming days. Some 109 Israeli hostages, living and dead, remain in Hamas captivity. As ceasefire talks renewed in Cairo, the war continued in Gaza, day 325 of the Gaza war. The IDF issued new evacuation orders for a portion of the designated humanitarian zone as the IDF confronts Hamas gunmen attempting to reassert control in areas of Gaza. The 252nd Division is focused in the Netzarim corridor in the center of Gaza. The Jerusalem and Harel brigades have been operating in central Gaza for the past 2 months. The forces of the division have eliminated over 200 terrorists and destroyed terror infrastructure in the region in recent days. The forces located and destroyed a strategic tunnel route of Hamas connecting southern and northern parts of the Strip. Meanwhile, 2 IDF soldiers were killed in Gaza as troops continue to advance in the center of the Strip. The fallen were identified as Staff Sergeant Amit Tsarikov, age 20, and Master Sergeant Shlomo Hazut, age 36. Last night, Hamas managed to fire a lone long-range rocket toward the town of Rishon LeZion. It fell harmlessly in an open area. Today, the Air Force targeted and destroyed the launcher in Khan Yunis.
Well, Israel's #1 target, Yahya Sinwar, may just be hiding in plain sight, but not how you might think. Since the 7th of October, Hamas arch-terrorist Yahya Sinwar has been a wanted man whom IDF intelligence believed to be hiding in the vast network of tunnels that Hamas has built throughout Gaza, accompanied by kidnapped hostages that are being used as human shields. But new reports indicate that he may be hiding in plain sight amongst the civilian population in Gaza and dressed as a woman. Israeli intelligence sources, as quoted in the UK's Daily Express, say Sinwar has been continuously moving from place to place in order to avoid Israeli assassination attempts. Sinwar's survival was even a point of contention in the hostage for ceasefire negotiations with Hamas, demanding a promise from Israel not to assassinate the terrorist leader as part of the negotiations. Since the successful assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran, Sinwar, the mastermind of the October 7th massacre, has become the top leader of Hamas and, as such, the #1 target for the state of Israel. As the hunt for Sinwar continues and the IDF continues to make progress against Hamas in Gaza, Sinwar is running out of places to hide and has begun to rely exclusively on couriers for messages as he no longer trusts electronic communications. Intel provided by a Hamas courier, however, was how the IDF was able to identify and kill wanted Hamas terrorist Mohammed Deif just a few months ago. As the war continues, there are only so many places Sinwar can hide before the IDF will be able to track down his location, whether below ground in the tunnels or above ground, even disguised as a woman. And actor and founder of the Women, Life, Freedom mural project, Houmen Khalili, is trying to reach Israel to unveil his 15th mural. However, as ILTV has reported, traveling to the Holy Land has become more challenging recently. Joining us now on Zoom, Houmen will share a bit of his personal story and challenge in getting to Israel. Houmen, so glad to have you on. Wish that you were here in studio with us in Israel, but you are a frequent traveler here to Israel. What number trip would this be for you, and why are you coming this time?
Emily, thanks so much for having me. It's wonderful to see you again. Yeah, so I've been to Israel 14 times over the last 19 months. Half of those trips have been after October 7th. So I understand the complexity of what it means to go to Israel, how difficult it can be, but it's actually getting harder and harder to get to Israel. So right now I'm in Asia, and I was booked on Austrian Airlines to go to Vienna and then go from Vienna to Israel. Austrian just canceled their flight out of the blue, no explanation, no reason why. But they said, we want to book you in the future. But the airlines don't understand, once you cancel our flights, we're not going to book with you to that destination. We might book with you to a different destination, but I'm not going to trust Austrian Airlines to get me to Israel. So now I'm stuck in Asia. I'm looking at flying to maybe Singapore and then down to Athens. That's one of the choices. The other one is to try to get to Austria, Vienna, but not with Austrian Airlines. I'm hoping and praying that Elon will open up a seat for me. I've flown so many times to Israel that I'm actually platinum on Elon. And
you've been unable, just to clarify, you've been unable to secure a seat with El Al flights because of the demand, correct?
Yeah, the demand, and also there is a flight from where I'm at to Israel right now, but it's $6,000 each way. So that's a little pricey even for me. I pay for all of my trips, like the Israeli government doesn't help. I pay for all of the murals, I pay for my hotels. And so I try to figure out a way to do this economically effectively. And so, yeah, I'm hoping somebody from LL will see this and say, let's help this guy out, because as you know, you've been there since day one. These murals in Israel, these Woman Life Freedom murals, actually fight anti-Semitism in a way that nothing else in the world seems to do. So my hope is that I can get there next week. We can unveil number 15 and 16, and then hopefully I'll come back right before October 7th to do number 17 and 18. That's the hope.
Well, unfortunately, Houmen, we are out of time, but if there's any final sentiments you want to send out that would be helpful for international travelers like yourself, feel free. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, I do have one other thing to say. To the fine folks at El Al or any airline that's flying to Israel, people want to come. They just can't figure out a way to come economically. So please make a way for us to come to Israel. We want to support the people. We want to support the land. We want to support the businesses, because so many of us love Israel and we stand with Israel.
Thank you, Houmen. Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, with the Paralympic Games beginning this week in Paris, the French marked the anniversary of the liberation of Paris from Nazi occupation in World War II. Let's see more.
Ahead of the Paralympic Games in France, French President Emmanuel Macron paid homage to the resistance fighters during World War II and spoke out against anti-Semitism during a ceremony in Paris marking 80 years since its liberation from Nazi occupation. The ceremony involved the hoisting of the French flag above the Eiffel Tower, just as it was raised at the same location in 1944, in the place of the Nazis' swastika flag. The ceremony comes at a time France is facing tremendous threats of anti-Semitism, with numerous attacks taking place in recent months, including an attack on a synagogue claimed by ISIS, in which a self-declared supporter of Palestinians set off a bomb at the entrance of the synagogue. One policeman was injured in the attack. French Prime Minister Gabriel Attal spoke about the attack this week, noting that it could have been much more deadly.
Le parquet national antiterroriste s'est saisi. L'enquête démarre tout juste. Des premiers éléments dont nous disposons, nous pouvons considérer que nous avons échappé à un drame absolu. D'abord parce que le commandant de la gendarmerie nous le disait, les premiers éléments, notamment de vidéosurveillance, l'assaillant était extrêmement déterminé et que si la synagogue avait été remplie de fidèles à ce moment-là, si des personnes étaient descendues dans les premières minutes de l'immeuble, probablement qu'il y aurait eu des victimes humaines.
Attal also condemned anti-Semitism in his remarks, which, according to recent reports, has reached alarming highs and continues to surge even in recent weeks. In 2023, France registered the highest increase of recorded anti-Semitic incidents of any country with reliable statistics, and 74% of those incidents occurred post-October 7th.
United Hatzalah has upgraded its emergency response capabilities with Carbine's Apex system, enhancing reliability and efficiency. This advanced technology allows for live video, real-time photos, and AI-driven call management, improving life-saving efforts. ILTV's Mayan Hoffman has more.
October 7 marked a turning point for Israel. Over 3,000 terrorists invaded the country, killing more than 1,200 civilians and soldiers. United Hatzalah was on the ground in southern Israel, providing care and saving lives. Less than a year later, as Hezbollah threatens more action against the Jewish state, Israel's largest independent emergency medical service has significantly upgraded its response capabilities. United Hatzalah is now changing the game in life-saving efforts. Last week, they launched a cutting-edge, cloud-based emergency response system developed by Carbine, an Israeli startup known for public safety technologies. Carbine's technology is already used by 911 centers across the U.S. Their Apex system enhances emergency operations, making them more robust, reliable, and scalable. Now, United Hatzalah's infrastructure is equipped with advanced technology for even more reliable, uninterrupted service. The new platform allows dispatch teams to receive live video from callers, real-time photos from the scene, pinpoint the caller's location, and manage chats when speaking is unsafe. These features work without needing an app, just a link sent to the caller during the call. Apex's AI capabilities also stream critical data to dispatchers, filtering and routing calls by urgency, helping them focus on the most critical events. Dovi Maizel, United Hatzalah's VP of Operations, said, moving to the cloud with Carbine's Apex ensures faster, more efficient responses, increases the chances of saving lives, and provides greater security to the community.
Well, I'm thrilled to invite you to ILTV's very first community webinar. This is your chance to connect directly with our editor-in-chief, Mayan Hoffman, and dive into the questions you care most about regarding Israel. The webinar kicks off on September 3rd and is exclusively for our app subscribers. If you're already part of the ILTV family, watch your inbox for a registration link. Not a subscriber yet? No worries. There's still time to join us. And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Clear skies are expected around most of the country tonight, with lows of around 26 degrees Celsius or 79 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we will see mostly sunny skies and hot weather, expected top temperatures seeing highs of about 35 degrees Celsius or 95 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channels, subscribe to our newsletter, and explore our website, iltv.tv. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Emily Schrader. Be well, and thank you so much for watching.